my wife laughed. You're broke. My lawyer will take everything. I smiled. 2 weeks later, she found out I had already transferred every asset months ago. Now she's drowning in legal fees while her lawyer stopped answering her calls. I don't even know where to start, man. Honestly, if someone told me a year ago I'd be here telling this story, I would have laughed in their face. But yeah, here we are. And before we dive into this absolute circus that became my life, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button, it helps a ton. I mean seriously, what you're about to hear. You don't want to miss stories like this. Alright, let's get into it. So I'm 38. Been married for just over 11 years. No kids, which, believe me, turned out to be a blessing after all this mess. I run a small construction business. Nothing flashy, but steady money, decent growth, few rental properties on the side. I was building something. Quietly. Solid. And for a while, I thought Lisa, my wife, was happy with that. Turns out, she was happy with the lifestyle. Big difference. She started doing what I call suburban queen behavior. Shopping like it was an Olympic sport, flexing on Instagram with handbags that cost more than my truck's tires, going out to brunches with her little wife club, while telling everyone how I just take care of everything. Meanwhile, she didn't work, didn't cook, didn't manage a damn thing besides swiping my cards. But hey, I figured whatever. I'm providing. That's my job, right? But bro, behind my back? She was planning something way bigger. Something way nastier. I had no idea how far she was willing to go until one little honestly. Looking back now, the red flags were everywhere. I just chose not to see them. She'd make these little comments like, you know, you could be making a lot more if you actually pushed harder. Or, my friend's husband just bought her a second home. Isn't that sweet? And I'd just smile, sip my coffee, and move on. Whatever. I thought it was harmless. Little comparison games women play. What I didn't know is that behind those comments, she was already in full planning mode. And let me tell you, Lisa's plan was simple: drain me. She started meeting with this high-end divorce attorney. I found out later the guy's basically a shark that specializes in flipping marriages into her type of payday. She thought she was untouchable because, get this, every asset was in my name. Businesses. Properties. Accounts. She figured she'd walk into court, paint me as controlling, and walk out with half or more. Classic playbook. The problem was, I wasn't sleeping at the wheel like she thought. You see, a few years back, an older buddy of mine went through something similar. His ex took him for everything because he got too comfortable. I swore I wouldn't be that guy. So I started quietly making moves long before Lisa even knew the word. Divorce lawyer. Trusts. LLCs. Separate holding companies. Quiet transfers. Everything perfectly legal. Everything documented. But silent. She never bothered to ask where things were held. She saw my name on stuff. That's all she needed to feel safe. That's how blind her greed made her. Conversation flipped the entire board upside down. And when I say she thought she had me cornered, she was convinced she was untouchable. Yeah. Well, she miscalculated. The funny part is, I saw this coming a long time ago. You know that gut feeling that kicks in when something's off? Yeah. That. But instead of flipping out back then, I stayed quiet. Played it cool. Watched her moves. And slowly started locking things down on my end, because when a woman starts switching her tone from, we're building a future together, to, you don't provide enough, you better believe something's brewing behind the scenes. So when I got the first call from her lawyer, 9:02 a.m., right on schedule, I wasn't surprised. Mr. X, this is regarding your wife's petition for divorce. We would like to propose an amicable settlement in everyone's best interest. Honestly, I could barely keep from laughing. Amicable? Yeah. Right. I told him. Send me whatever you got, I'll take a look. Calm. Zero emotion. Because that's what screws most guys, emotions. They let anger run the show, and they start doing dumb sh*t. Me? I already had my paperwork sitting with my own attorney. And not just from last week. We're talking months of prep. Every asset I cared about was out of reach already. The house? Transferred to a holding LLC. My business? Split and protected under 2 layers of shell core. Savings? Diversified and shifted. The only accounts still showing my name were exactly the ones I wanted them to see. Smoke and mirrors. They thought I was some panicked husband who'd roll over just because she said, I want a divorce. Nah. She was already too late. A few days later, the official, proposed settlement, landed in my inbox. And bro, I swear, the audacity was almost impressive. She wanted half of everything. Full control of the house. My business shares. My rental properties. My brokerage accounts. The vacation cabin. Even my damn car collection. Oh, and lifetime alimony payments. To maintain her lifestyle. Plus, she expected me to pay her legal fees. Like I was some walking ATM who just happened to share a bed with her for a few years. I poured myself a drink, skimmed through it, and actually laughed out loud. She texted me that evening, playing all soft like nothing was happening. Hey. I hope you're okay. This doesn't have to get ugly. Right. Sweetheart, you hired the same shark lawyer who handled your friend's divorce. You knew exactly what you were trying to pull. I texted back simple. We'll handle it through the attorneys. No fight. No reaction. That's what kept her guessing. Next morning? Another text. I just want what's fair. After everything I've given up for us. Given up? Girl, you haven't worked a real job in years. I paid for everything while you played housewife and ran up luxury charges like we had an unlimited credit line. And don't get me wrong, I never complained when I thought we were a team. But once she flipped that switch to take everything mode, the game changed. Her lawyer kept pushing, sending over updated drafts, like I was gonna fold under pressure. Instead, every draft just made my attorney grin wider. She had no idea every move she made was locking herself deeper into a losing game. The problem was, she thought this was her movie, and I was just a side character who didn't know how it ends. What she didn't realize. I'd been writing my ending long before she filed the opening credits. 2 weeks into the back and forth with her lawyer, and honestly, I started to enjoy the silence on her end. She wasn't texting cute little check-ins anymore, no more. I hope we can stay friends. Crap. Because by then, her lawyer finally started running the numbers and realized she wasn't holding any real leverage. But that didn't stop them from trying. Few days later, I get this passive-aggressive email from her attorney. Mr. X, we've been informed that certain marital assets appear to have been transferred without proper disclosure. No sh*t. You just figuring that out now? See, this is where most guys screw up. They try to hide assets at the last second. That's how you get nailed. Me? Everything was clean, legal, structured long before she even thought about filing. My attorney handled every move by the book. And the assets they were whining about? Technically, not even mine at the time of filing. All disclosed. All protected. All out of reach. The best part? I didn't even have to say much. My lawyer handled 99% of the communication. Cold. Surgical. Every response was basically, we disagree with your assessment. All transfers were lawful. Feel free to pursue formal discovery. Translation: if you want to chase this, bring your checkbook. Discovery costs money. And I knew damn well she didn't have it. But here's where she finally snapped. She calls me directly, after weeks of silence, trying to guilt-trip me. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything I sacrificed for this marriage. I let her vent for a solid 2 minutes. Then I cut her off, calm as hell. Look, you made your choices. You hired the lawyer. You started this game. Don't cry now because you're losing. Dead silence on the line. Then she hits me with it. That line I'll never forget. You're broke. My lawyer will take everything. You won't have a penny left when we're done. I swear, bro, I almost laughed out loud. But I kept my voice flat. If you say so. That was it. That was my only reply. No yelling. No insults. Just cold. Let her think whatever she wanted. Because the truth? By the time she figured out how badly she miscalculated, it would be too late. After that call, she went into full-blown desperation mode. You could feel the shift. The vibe changed. All that arrogance she had in the beginning, gone. It's funny how fast confidence evaporates when you realize you're not holding any real cards. She starts sending these long-winded texts, trying to play both sides. First, the guilt. We were supposed to build a life together, how can you be so cold? Then the veiled threats. You know I can make this very ugly if I want to. And then, like clockwork, the bargaining. Maybe if you give me the house, we can settle this peacefully. Honestly? I just scrolled through the messages like reading bad fiction. My reply? Simple. Everything's already with the attorneys. You can discuss it there. That's it. No emotions, no arguments. That kind of silence drives people like her insane. She was used to pushing my buttons. Not anymore. She tried to go around my lawyer after that. Called one of my closest friends, who, by the way, never liked her, trying to fish for info. My buddy calls me right after. Bro, she's fishing. Asking if you're hiding anything else. Playing the victim card hard. I laughed. Let her dig. The more she digs, the worse it's gonna get for her. Meanwhile, her lawyer kept sending these half-baked settlement offers, thinking I'd flinch. They offered her taking the majority of the liquid assets while I keep the retirement accounts. Yeah, no. That was the whole point of my preparation. The liquid assets were already secured months ago, legally moved, fully compliant, with tax documentation in place. She couldn't touch it. Retirement accounts? Protected by federal law. Basically, her offers were just her throwing darts blindfolded. At one point, her lawyer tried that classic intimidation routine during one of the meetings. He sits there with his smug face and says, "Look, if this goes to trial, Mr. X, your financial situation will be fully exposed, and you might not like the outcome." I just leaned back, stared him dead in the eye, and said, "I'm very comfortable with my situation. The question is, are you comfortable explaining to the court why your client was attempting to claim assets she knew weren't marital property?" His face? Pure panic for a split second. That's when it hit him. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't scared. And more importantly, I wasn't broke like she was hoping. The man flipped his notebook closed faster than I expected. Her game plan was officially falling apart. But that's when the phone call came that really set the stage for the fallout. Her mom called me. Yeah, her mother, who used to call me her perfect son-in-law, when I was paying for vacations and buying her daughter jewelry. You know, maybe you're taking this too far. She's still the mother of your children. I kept my voice steady. Funny, she wasn't too worried about the kids when she hired her lawyer and tried to bleed me dry. You can tell her to save the drama for court. That was the last family call I took. From that point, it became survival mode for them, and I was perfectly fine watching it play out. The next 2 weeks were basically her unraveling in slow motion. You know that stage where people finally realize they played the wrong hand? That was her. She went from cocky to desperate real fast. Every day, new messages. I don't want to fight. We can figure this out. Translation? She finally understood how deep the hole was that she dug for herself. And let me tell you something, watching her try to backpedal while pretending to be the reasonable one. That was entertainment. Pure entertainment. Then she pulled the oldest trick in the book, tried to weaponize the kids. You know this is affecting them. You should think about their well-being before you ruin everything. I called her out instantly. Don't you dare play that card. You didn't think about them when you started all this. You didn't think about them when you laughed in my face and said your lawyer would take everything. This is your mess. Own it. She went quiet after that. And when they go quiet, you know they're regrouping. Sure enough, a few days later, her lawyer files some emergency motion trying to freeze a few of my remaining accounts. Honestly? Amateur hour. Everything was already structured months ago. He was grasping at straws. My attorney calls me after the hearing, and he's half laughing. Man, they didn't even do their homework. Their entire argument fell apart in under 10 minutes. Good. That was the plan. Let them flail. Let them burn time and money trying to hit targets that no longer existed. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, my forensic accountant was still working. This dude was worth every penny, by the way. He pulled every record, every transfer, every transaction from the last 2 years. We had a full timeline laid out, not only showing that my moves were legal but that her side actually tried to misrepresent facts in their filings. That's when my attorney hit them with the real hammer, a countersuit for legal fees and malicious litigation. You could feel the panic through their emails after that one dropped. And then, as if it couldn't get any better, her boyfriend tried to insert himself. Yeah. This clown thought he was gonna come flex on me like he had some leverage. He sends me a text. Maybe you should just give her what she wants. She deserves better anyway. I actually laughed out loud when I read it. My reply? Stay in your lane. This isn't your fight, and you don't have the bank account to step in. Radio silence. Nothing after that. The guy must have realized very quickly that he was swimming in water way over his head. But the best part? A week later, my lawyer gets word that her boyfriend actually dumped her. Yeah. Apparently, once he realized she wasn't walking away from this with a big payday, he bailed. No free ride for him. No luxury lifestyle off my back. That right there was the poetic justice I didn't even have to orchestrate. She did it all herself. And bro, I was just getting started. Now this is where the real fun began. See, once her little boyfriend bailed, she had nobody left to gas her up. Suddenly, all that confidence evaporated. That's when she tried to shift gears, play the victim card. Classic move. She starts texting. I never wanted it to go this far. Can we sit down like adults? For the sake of closure. Honestly? Closure? After she laughed in my face, told me her lawyer would take everything, and paraded that guy around like a trophy? Nah. But I wasn't gonna say no. I wanted to see what her version of closure looked like. So we meet at some little coffee spot. She shows up dressed like she's auditioning for sympathy, minimal makeup, tired eyes, playing that whole I'm exhausted from this fight role. Write out the manipulation playbook. She opens with some soft voice. I just don't know how we got here. I let her talk. It's not what I planned. I never wanted us to end like this. You changed. I raised my eyebrow, looked her dead in the eye, and said, I changed? You're standing here because you tried to strip me down financially. Don't rewrite history now. She stuttered for a second, tried to recover. But you didn't even give me a chance to fix things. I cut her off. You laughed in my face, remember? The broke joke? The lawyer threat? That was you burning the bridge. Don't act like you slipped and fell into this. That's when she dropped the real reason for this whole charade. I'm drowning, okay? The legal bills, my credit cards, rent. I thought you'd at least help with that. And there it was, the money grab. This wasn't about closure. This was about her realizing the safety net was gone. I stayed calm. You wanted independence. You got it. Handle your own problems now. Her face dropped. She got a little desperate, trying to throw guilt in. We were married for years. You can't even help a little? After everything? I shook my head, leaned in a bit so she heard every word. You gambled. You lost. That's not my debt to carry. Then I stood up and left her sitting there, right in the middle of that little cafe, pretending to wipe her tears while side-eyeing every person around us, hoping for some pity looks. And let me tell you, I didn't lose a second of sleep that night. But she was about to lose a whole lot more. Couple days after that little closure performance, the real heat started. Her lawyer reached out. Not even pretending to negotiate, straight threats. If your client doesn't agree to financial support voluntarily, we will be forced to escalate litigation. Bro, they really thought I was some deer in headlights. What they didn't know. My paperwork was flawless. I'd been prepping for this storm before she even met that clown she cheated with. So I had my lawyer draft a nice little response. As previously disclosed, all assets were legally separated and transferred before divorce proceedings began. Any further legal action will be considered harassment. Boom. Sent. Radio silence for about a week. And then? She sends this long emotional email. The classic one. We shared so many years together. You're really going to let me suffer? I didn't think you'd be so cold. Cold? Lady, you lit the match. I just let you watch the fire. And here's the kicker. I found out through mutual friends that her little boyfriend bailed as soon as he realized she wasn't coming into that money like she promised. Apparently, dude thought he was getting a sugar mama situation. Instead, he ended up bailing on her 2 months into her financial freefall. Honestly? Poetic. But I wasn't done. Because what people like her never expect is that the system doesn't favor stupidity. Once she realized she couldn't squeeze me legally, she tried pulling public sympathy, posting cryptic stuff online, talking about narcissistic exes, and how money ruins people. Whatever. I just watched it play out. But then she made the real mistake. She tried getting my family involved. My sister called me up, real serious. Hey, maybe you could just help her out a little, just enough so she doesn't lose the apartment. I told my sister flat. No. She made her choices. She can live with them. She pushed back. But you're better off now. You don't need to be this harsh. And I said it plain. Exactly. I'm better off because I don't let people like her bleed me dry. If you feel bad, you write her a check. Dead silence on the phone. That ended the conversation quick. From there, her situation kept spiraling. Credit cards maxed out, eviction notices piling up, car repossessed. Every time my phone buzzed with another update, I just shook my head. Actions meet consequences. That's all this ever was. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. But don't expect me to mop up the mess when the game doesn't go your way. And bro, we're just getting to the good part. Now here's where her little empire officially started crumbling in public. You know how some people try to act like everything's fine, even when their life's on fire? That was her. Posting brunch selfies like she wasn't 3 months behind on rent. Meanwhile, people were talking. Her friends started ghosting her. Turns out, most of them weren't really friends. They were just circling like sharks because they thought she was coming into my money. The second they realized she couldn't deliver, they dipped. Classic. Then, one afternoon, I get a call, unknown number. Normally, I don't even pick those up, but something told me, let's hear this circus. It was her mother. Yeah. The same woman who used to tell me I wasn't good enough for her daughter. Now she's playing nice. Listen, she starts. Maybe you could be the bigger person. She's made some mistakes, but we all make mistakes. I let her finish her whole little monologue and said flatly, she didn't make mistakes. She made choices. And I made mine. She tried to pull the guilt trip. You don't want to see her homeless, do you? She's still family. And I just laughed. She stopped being my family the minute she thought she could rob me and walk away clean. She's your daughter. You help her. Silence. Then the classic fake crying. Honestly, at that point it was just pathetic. But here's where it really went off the rails. Apparently, she tried to play one last card, suing me for fraudulent transfer of assets. Like I said, desperate people do desperate things. But guess what? My attorney had built every single move months in advance. All assets were moved legally, fully documented, and protected. Her lawsuit didn't even make it past the first hearing. Judge dismissed it so fast it was almost embarrassing. She sat there in court, trying to hold it together, while her new boyfriend, yeah, she found another one, sat in the back row watching the whole thing fall apart. I'm not gonna lie, bro, watching her face when the judge said, case dismissed with prejudice, was the best closure I could have ever asked for. No screaming. No fighting. Just cold, legal reality hitting her square in the face. And when we walked out of that courtroom, her boyfriend dipped too. Like physically left her standing there alone outside the courthouse. And I stood there for a second, looked at her while she tried to gather herself, and said, you always thought you were smarter than everyone. How's that working out? She couldn't even answer. Just tears, fake stuttering, the whole routine. I turned and walked. Game over. And just when I thought she was finally done embarrassing herself, she pulled one more stunt. See, apparently in her head, if the legal route failed, maybe the social pressure card would work. I start getting texts from random numbers. How can you let her suffer like this? Real men don't kick women when they're down. She gave you the best years of her life, man. You know, all the classic manipulation garbage. I didn't even reply. Blocked. Then, one evening, I get a message from an old mutual friend, or more accurately, one of those neutral middle ground types who never fully picked a side. Bro, she's posting again. I check, and sure enough, she's on social media playing full victim. Crying on camera, talking about how she's homeless, how she was blindsided by betrayal, how I stole everything while she was trying to build a future for us. The comments were full of the usual white knights and sympathy vultures. I mean, textbook. Honestly, it was so predictable I almost respected the consistency. But then she took it further. She actually had the nerve to start a GoFundMe. No joke. Begging strangers for donations to help rebuild her life after financial abuse. She raised a few thousand from simps who had no idea they were funding someone who tried to rob her husband blind. That was the last straw for me. So I made one call. My attorney hit her with a cease and desist, and we started preparing for a defamation suit if she didn't shut it down. She tried to act tough, of course. You can't stop people from helping me, her lawyer emailed. My guy calmly replied with all the screenshots, bank records, court transcripts, and settlement agreements proving she was the one who tried to pull financial fraud. You want discovery? We'll open discovery. That shut them up fast. Less than 48 hours later, the GoFundMe was quietly deleted, her little awareness campaign went dark, and the fake tears dried up real quick. But here's where it really gets satisfying. Few weeks later, I hear through the grapevine that the boyfriend she left me for? Yeah, he bailed. Apparently he thought he was signing up for a rich divorcee with a big payout. When he realized she had no money, no assets, and a legal mess behind her? Poof, gone. And not quietly either. He left her high and dry with a pile of shared debt he racked up trying to help her rebuild. She tried texting me after that. Of course. Maybe we can talk. We don't have to be enemies. I never wanted things to get this ugly. Honestly, it was sad. So I sent one final text back. You made your choices. Now you live with them. And that was it. Blocked. Done. Clean. Watching someone who thought they could play every angle slowly realize they're out of moves? Bro, there's nothing colder than that. Couple months go by. Honestly, life's been pretty damn peaceful without her circus bleeding into my world. The house is mine, the business is stable, my accounts are solid, and best of all, I'm sleeping like a rock. No more late night arguments. No more passive aggressive comments. No more walking on eggshells around someone who thought her manipulation was some kind of power move. But naturally, people like her? They don't know when to quit. One evening, I'm grabbing dinner with some buddies, and one of them leans over like he's about to drop nuclear gossip. "Hey man, you seen this?" He hands me his phone. It's her. On TikTok. Full-on influencer mode. Healing after narcissistic abuse. Telling strangers how I was emotionally distant. How she tried to save the marriage, but I left her broken. Bro, I almost spit out my drink. Like I said, predictable. And you know what? I let it ride. Honestly, if she wanted to vent to her 600 followers and pretend she was the victim, whatever. Let her get her pity likes. But then came the real kicker. She started dating some new guy. And this one? Different breed of stupid. He's blowing up his socials about how real men stand by their queens. Posting selfies in MY house like he's king of the castle. Bro was flexing furniture I bought. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. That's when I called my attorney again. Because you see, part of our divorce settlement included very strict terms about who could reside in my property until the final payout cleared. And this dude playing house on Instagram? Major violation. My lawyer filed the paperwork faster than she could post another selfie. Served. Evicted. Out. And when they left? They didn't even try to take the stuff they posted about. Because none of it was theirs to begin with. Now here's where it all circles back. 2 weeks after the eviction, I get a knock on my office door. And there she is, in person. First time I've seen her face since the day she laughed in court. "Please," she starts, fake tears already loaded. "Can't we just talk like adults? You don't have to destroy me." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Destroy you? You did that all by yourself. I just stopped letting you use me while you did it." She tried the sympathy card again, said she had nowhere to go, that her support system abandoned her. And that's when it clicked for her. For the first time in years, she realized there was no one left to manipulate. No fallback. No safety net. Just her own mess staring back. I stood up, opened the door, and said, "We're done here." She left without another word. That was the real ending. No drama. No big screaming match. Just cold reality. That was almost a year ago now. And bro, you know what the best part is? Not the house, not the money, not even the legal wins, it's the silence. That perfect, peaceful silence when you finally cut out the person who thought your life was their playground. I don't hate her. I just don't care anymore. And that's the real power. So yeah, that's pretty much it. She went from laughing in my face to crying in my office, from flexing in my house to getting kicked out with nothing but her phone full of TikToks that aged like milk. People ask me if I feel bad. Honestly? No. You play stupid games, you win very expensive prizes. And me? I just finally got my peace in a house that's a lot quieter without all the drama echoing off the walls. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Invest early, in a good lawyer and a solid prenup.